Leaders of the European Union gathering in Copenhagen to discuss defence following a series of drone incursions on the bloc's eastern flank. Denmark amongst those most recently affected. It has not ruled out Russian involvement, but warned that Europe is in what it calls, quote, a hybrid war. Moscow has denied responsibility. Bloc leaders will also be debating a proposal to use frozen Russian assets to fund a $165 billion loan to Ukraine. FMO Will Denselow is covering the story for CNA live from Copenhagen. Will, of course, funding from those frozen assets, that will be needed should the EU need funding for this proposed drone wall to guard against airspace violations.
That is absolutely right. And Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, speaking to the press a little earlier, said that the bloc is facing its most dangerous and difficult moment since the end of the Second World War amid these threats of these aerial airspace incursions. She said, as you mentioned, that the bloc is facing a hybrid war. She says that the only country threatening Europe is indeed Russia. European leaders are gathering at this building behind me, behind those arched windows you can see behind my shoulder, to discuss what exactly the bloc can do about it. You mentioned the Eastern Flank Watch. Now, this is boosting security both on the ground, in the air and at sea. As part of those aerial defences, the drone wall absolutely front and centre at the moment to provide some kind of defence to these recent airspace violations that we've been seeing. Also being discussed, wider security parameters for the bloc. They've already pledged over $900 billion potentially for defence procurement, defence capabilities here in the bloc. That's a major area of discussion. You also mentioned Ukraine. Well, Ursula von der Leyen, European Commission President, has pledged more than $4.5 billion to Ukraine's defence supplies, half of which those funds will go towards Ukrainian drone capabilities. She says Ukraine is the first line of defence. That is why it's seen as crucial that Europe continues to provide Ukraine with the support it needs. Another conversation, those frozen Russian assets. European member states remain divided on whether to use them. France says they want to make sure it's not a violation of international law. Russia says it will be theft.
Well, thanks to Will Denselow there covering the story for CNA from Copenhagen, where we're seeing this informal leader summit of European Union leaders.